So, when thinking about how to manage time in the workplace, especially in those early years, I think the most important attribute or action that I would recommend to a young person is communication. And that's not necessarily just sending emails telling your boss when something's going to be due. It's about the communication in the early stages when a task is set. And I think establishing clarity of expectations, walking out of a meeting, you've just been given a task. Does everyone else have the same understanding as you? The expectation is, how long is it going to take? 3 days. When would you like me to submit it? Okay, by Friday. And that's a utopian situation, right? Where your line manager has a perfect clarity. But I think that consistent communication, coming back in, checking in, if you're not sure about something, but making sure that you haven't misunderstood expectations from those around you, because that's when conflict tends to rise up, is when expectations aren't met or there's differences of opinion as to how a task might be done.
During school, you come back from, I don't know, half term or holidays or anything, and you've got a timetable of everything you need to do at what time, already handed to you, done by someone else. Whereas when you get to work, you kind of have to manage yourself a lot more, which obviously it was a big difference for me when I started. And honestly, I had quite a rocky start with it. There were a few times I maybe like missed a meeting or something, or didn't quite time something right, and it just all kind of toppled over. But learning from those mistakes has definitely been very beneficial. I've learned to be more independent since starting, and it's definitely been a very good experience for me to just jump into it. And I've learned to be by myself a lot more and not managed by other people, which is nice.
So for my role, it's a bit different. Like I'm a bit more micromanaged than you, by the sounds of it. Not through just not because of me personally, but it's more of a thing in my role. We've got this list of agenda. If this is the topics that we have to go through. I want you to do this for this week and that for that week. You've got to do it by then, and we'll have a review on that day just to see where you're at. So it's not that I'm not managed. It's not that I'm fully managed, micromanaged to every minute. Obviously, I've got to kind of manage my workload of what I've got to do by what day. But I always have reviews, hash-ups that are managed by people to make sure that I'm hitting the targets, or that we're at least allocating the resources for me to hit my targets. But yeah, obviously that varies role to role.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, I've still got a manager. I've got my apprentice advisors. They book stuff for me at times, like meetings and such. But I feel like there's quite a lot of freedom in what you can do as long as you're doing the right things, which is what I've noticed. You can kind of just do your own thing as long as it's within a certain boundary. It's really nice, actually. It's good to be able to just kind of crack on. But the support is massive. It's really good. The whole support system is great.
There's a good level of trust, unless
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, always.
It's not that different to school. You still set a deadline. You still have a line manager that you could probably equate to being your teacher that's going to come down on you pretty hard if you don't meet the deadline. So there's some similarities there. I think the big one is that you will be given responsibility and you will be expected to show some level of maturity and take hold of that responsibility. So instead of your teacher checking in with you every lesson saying, where are you up to? The line manager will come to you on deadline day and say, where is it? So there's that element of being able to manage your time and organise in order to deliver, knowing that somebody isn't going to be constantly helping you through it. And there's all sorts of things that you can do there, even things like managing your email inbox, creating some folders lots of people find useful, so it's not an absolute Amazon rainforest of emails when you come to it. So I think it's working out what your learning style and productivity style is, and then trying to get things organised, prioritising, maybe making notes on what priority things are needed for that week. So just little things which are probably quite good techniques that you might have used for some of your revision for your GCSEs or A-levels, etc., which probably translate quite well. But you're definitely not going to have that person overseeing you, holding your hand through the process.
I think it's to really try and not take on too much. It's to learn where your limits are and then work inside of those with support. It's very easy, especially when you're early in your career, to want to say yes to everything and quickly burn yourself out, or maybe then not be as good as you can be because you've let someone down because you actually couldn't get that piece of work done in time. And I think being honest is really important, and in just holding your hands up and saying, oh, I'm really sorry, but I actually can't get that done in the time you need it. And most people will take that on and kind of help you either find a new deadline or the support that you need. So I think, it is a big change because you don't have someone checking in with you and saying, like, have you done this? It is on you. But once you've stood up and said you need help, that help will be there.
It's important to manage your own time well, make sure you know what you have coming up and you have the time to complete the project. Always say when you don't have the capacity for something, because people will understand. And just make sure you take breaks. Like if you're working on a big project and it's taking a lot out of you, it's important to take even short regular breaks, go for a walk, go grab a coffee, just to make sure that you don't overwork yourself.
Always, if you can, at work, at the end of every day, try and switch off. So do a minute or two at the end of every day to go, this is what I've done today, this is what I'm going to be doing tomorrow, and then switch the laptop off, and that's you done. It's very easy to fall into the trap of opening the laptop back up again or the phone at 10 o'clock at night or at 9 o'clock at night, and then that's it, you're not going to get a good sleep. So you need to be strong with yourself to say, right, here's the cut-off between work and my personal life.
Yeah, it's really interesting because everyone manages their workflow and energy in a slightly different way. So what works for one person doesn't work for the other. I think, again, at school, like, you're given quite rigid homework perhaps, or tasks that you're meant to do, and everyone's doing the same thing, but your workload might also vary from another person's workload. So I think trial and error is really important. Whether it's you're the kind of person who loves to create a coloured to-do list and everything's colour coordinated versus actually perhaps being a bit more flexible. So say the morning of your day is spent on your learning schedule or the tasks that you want to complete, and then the afternoon is more for projects and things that are a bit more abstract or free-flowing. Just knowing your kind of peaks and troughs throughout the day is really important, and holding space for time to think as well as time to do, I think, is really, really helpful. But again, it varies from person to person.
You do have to be able to recognise the need to say no. And actually, if you're a manager will recognise that it's good for somebody to push back when it's appropriate to do so. You've got to learn when it's appropriate to do so, but recognising your own capacity and your limitations is an important piece. One of the first pieces of advice that I give to any new trainee solicitor when they're coming into our team is, if I've asked you to do something and you haven't asked me when I need it back, that's your first question. When do you need that back by? So you're setting the level of expectation. You need to understand what priorities you've got. You've got to be organised. So you've got to have that to-do list. You've got to be on that ability to do that. You've got to be able to recognise that things need to move. And sometimes you just have to be busy. But other times you won't be so busy. You make use of that too. And that's fine. It is all about that organisation piece. And the asking and understanding how much time you've got to do something, how much time it might take. It's a really difficult art to understand that there are so many hours in a day and you have to deliver something by a certain time. And just making sure that you can work to that. If you can't work to that, communication is also key. It's being able to say to somebody before the deadline, I'm not going to make that. Can I have some more time? Because at least you're setting the level of expectation. The worst thing in the world as a supervisor is to chase someone. Have you done that piece of work for me? No, I haven't, because why didn't you tell me? I could have got you some extra support. So it's a two-way exercise, and it has to be a two-way street. I need this done, that's fine, but I need this, fine.
If you let your clients know, or you let even your team know what you have going on, first of all, they'll be able to be a bit more sympathetic and also understanding of your metrics in terms of like how much time you can dedicate to certain thing. If you are going to put your own deadlines in place, make sure that you stick to them, because now you've kind of given yourself an accountability perspective from there. Thirdly as well, I'd also say divvy up all your tasks for the week and see which ones you know that you can get sorted out the quickest, but also the ones that you know are going to be most important to the people within your team, but also your client base as well. And I think those 3 key steps are what are going to be able to propel you as a professional person, but also be able to have people trusting you to go and do your job and not feel like you're quote unquote getting micromanaged a certain way, because you know that if you say you're going to do it by Thursday and it's done by Thursday, hooray. If you know that you're going to do it by Thursday, you've done it by Wednesday, now you're even exceeding expectations and you look even more of an indispensable person within the workplace.
Well, the world of engineering is a very unpredictable world. It is, you could go in and one day and you can have your list planned out. I don't know, it's the same for you. Like, you can have your plan and you can go, oh, I'm going to do this, then this, and this, and I'll be done by that time, have my lunch, and da-da-da. It don't work like that sometimes. Sometimes you miss your lunch, sometimes you work over, but it's all part and parcel of the job. You learn different things and you take them in, and it's the same with time management. You know, you learn the fact that, oh, I might have been able to do this if I'd done that, but things just come up, especially within Harrods. Yeah, I could have a day where, like I said, I'll plan something out, but it could be, oh, I've got a leak here and I've got a light out here, and then you're like, right, I'm just all around the shop today. I've just gone everywhere, here, there, and everywhere. So it's about being lenient with yourself, but also having that time management to make sure that you get some stuff done, get your job done, and make sure that you are also mentally okay in that. You don't want to stress yourself out at the end of the day. You want to make sure you look after your well-being, but that you're also executing your job in the right manner.
Yeah, I would say being in control of your own time and setting expectations, realistic expectations, in order to do the job to the best of your ability. As Reece said, it's, you know, with my role, with his role, with a lot of roles, right? You know, you come in one day and say, this is going to get done, and realistically, none of it gets done for whatever reason. Yeah. And that can be, you know, unexpected for me, clients turning up, or, you know, last minute requests and whatever that might look like. So I think it's about, you know, taking time to, you know, prioritize certain tasks, manage people's expectations, whether that's internal or clients, but also always being in control. I feel like if you lose that control is when you start to, you know, your work starts to slip. If you overpromise, especially to the wrong people within business, it's not a good representation of yourself, where most people will be very understanding if you can't take the work on, to say, look, this is when I'll be able to get it done. Is this okay? You know, this isn't, you know, something that I can manage at this time. And it's something that I've learned over the time, you know, especially with clients. You know, you have to manage clients' expectations and not just be a yes person. You know, you have to almost put time frames on things, and like I said, yeah, always stay in control.
If you're someone that's prone to taking on too much work and saying yes to too many things, again, flag that with your line manager. Let them know that that's your personality, that's the way it leans, and they can keep an eye on the capacity that you've got at the time.